big topic, and I realized that I don't probably think I have the answer to this thing. So talking about the future of ingredients, I just wanted to start with, asking this kind of question or making this statement where it says that it's in our nature, I think, to always want more. And especially today, we become so dependent on having access to everything when we want it, all the year. And that has made us kind of lose the connection a little bit with some of the ingredients that we're working with, whether it's raw produce or it's spirits, because a lot of the time also as a bartender you tend to forget that this bottle of alcohol that you're pouring, it is actually an agricultural product. A lot of people have played a part in getting that into your hands, but it's hard to imagine the kind of harvest, the kind of sowing the soil, all of these things, when the product just sits on the shelf. But there's so much more that goes into it. And this is often a little bit the difference between having these conversations with chefs and having conversations with bartenders, because we're so used to having that reach for what we use. So I think one of the things that we need to embrace when we talk about the future of ingredients is just the fact that not everything is scalable, not everything is meant to be everywhere, and not everything can be everywhere. But I don't think that means that it's any less precious, actually more so. When you look at ingredients, for example, one of the big things that we need to address now, I think, because it's at the point where it will be too late if we don't, is the rate of extinction. If you look at the last 250 years, 571 plants, fruits, species have been lost. And this is about double the number of what we see in wildlife, for example. And it's about 500 times faster than the natural selection, natural process of species disappearing. So I think that we need to look at that and say, like, why is this happening? What are we doing? Why are we not looking at the full biodiversity of things? Why are we not using all of the ingredients around us? And kind of thinking about from a bartending point of view. How many different types of lemons do you know? Because a lot of the time, when you look at a recipe, 15 mils or half an ounce, quarter ounce, sorry, whatever measure of lemon, and you say, but there's so many different types of lemons. But we don't acknowledge that. And also sometimes, when you reach for the lemon, you make the drink, and it doesn't really taste like it tasted last month, because it's actually a different type of lemon, because it's a different season. So I think that we need to also look at the ingredients and really make an effort to educate ourselves about the plethora of ingredients that we have available, because all of these are lemons. But they have very different qualities, very different purposes, very different regions of growth, very different drinks that they would appear in. And if we only think about lemons as one lemon, then we lose out so much, because we also need to think about the ingredients that we use. Are we using them for what purpose? Are we using them for flavor? Are we using them for acidity? What is it that you want from this? Because, for example, this discussion that has been going on for the last, probably longer, but I just saw it a few years ago, about super juice, about adding acidity into the juice. And I'm not saying that I disagree with it. I don't know my opinion about it yet, to be honest. But if you use that, and the argument is so that the acidity is stable, so that it always has the same kind of function in the drink. I agree with that from an acidity point of view. But what about flavor? What about flavor? Well, because the flavor will be different as well. And also throughout, I'm someone who believes that, yes, I love citrus when citrus is in season, which is not all year round where I come from. Here's a drink completely free from citrus. No, I'm joking. No, sorry. But if you use citrus for its flavor, even throughout the growth season, it will be different. But if you adjust it, then you take away the nuances. And for me, a lot of the time in ingredients, the nuances is what is beautiful and what I really want from it. It's why, for example, in late December, early January, when the blood orange season starts in Italy, I love blood orange, but I would never want to drink it right now because the blood orange that you get now probably comes from a greenhouse somewhere or a farm, and it's not the same. So this is a drink that is just a drink that I like. No, I'm joking. It is a drink that is kind of playing around with the barriers of traditional ways of making drinks. So it's a mix of Calle 23 Reposado. It's a little bit of Linea Aquavit and a little bit of mezcal. Because I wanted something that is both earthy, rich, has a little bit of smoke, but also got that botanical structure in the middle. Then it's a little bit of Palo Cortado sherry to have some earthiness. And then a little bit of vetiver, which is an aromatic grass. But in this instance, it's the root that is distilled. So it gives it a little bit of indulgence, a little bit of richness. So, yes, so back to lemons, basically. So if we only limit ourselves to looking at the one version of one ingredient, that of course becomes a problem when we're talking about the future of ingredients, because the future becomes very limited. Our goal is obviously to have as much diversity and celebrate the ingredients that we have. I wanted to show you another picture, because if you look at this structure, it doesn't look recognizable as a lemon, but this is also a lemon. So lemons are these beautiful, natural citrus fruits, obviously, but it's also composed of chemical structure. It's also ingredients. So can you, for example, use the qualities of a lemon without using a lemon? Yes, you can, technically, by mixing other ingredients and achieve the similar result. Can you replace it? No, that's not what I'm saying. But there are other ways of using a lemon and deconstructing how you use a lemon. Is it the peel? Is it the pith? Is it the juice? What is it that you want? And I think this is something that we are kind of missing a little bit in bartending, because we are used to using the ingredient the way that we've been told to use it by the people coming before us. But everything has changed, and that's why we also need to change. Seasonality is something that we all talk about. It's one of the big buzzwords. But do we really understand what seasonality means when it means ingredients? It can be, again, so many things. One thing is, you know, in this world of convenience, we've sacrificed flavor, we've sacrificed nutrition, we sacrificed a lot of things for convenience. Being able to go into a supermarket, buy something that looks incredibly beautiful. You open it, you taste it, tastes like nothing. Why? Because it was not meant to taste anything. It was meant to look good, so you would buy it. And that's a completely different thing. So I think we need to also understand where our resources come from. And if we want to continue to use them, we need to protect them. Because it's not like a bank. Well, even a bank is not a bank these days. So it's not like you can just withdraw. You also need to put in. That actually is like a bank. Come to think of it, but for the purpose of this example, this is a salt pool. So a salt is something that is so everywhere to us. We don't even think about it, because without salt, what do we have? We have nothing. We don't even have life. You know, this is a salt pool in the Jujuy region of Argentina. And it's one of the last communities that still harvest by hand. You can only do it once a year. And it takes approximately half a day to harvest one of these pools. And it's around 2 tons in the end. It needs 3 months to dry, season, so that the cyanide kind of evaporates. And I will give you a shot if you can guess how much they get paid for that amount of salt. The equivalent to $8. And then when you think about how much you pay for salt in the store, you realize that a lot of people have made a lot of money, but not necessarily these people, you know? And also it's becoming a very, very politically charged area now because we all want, you know, cell phones, Teslas, batteries. So now it's becoming challenged from a different angle because everybody wants salt now. So I think that we need to, you know, come to terms with not having everything all the time and appreciate what we have when we have it. Because even though drinks are, it's not the end of the world if you don't have one last cocktail. It is, but it isn't, you know, so. But we can appreciate those cocktails. We can look at how can we make our cocktails more lasting, more precious, more, you know, meaningful. And I think part of that is just rethinking the categories, the definitions, what is a cocktail? Because, you know, back in the days we used to make cocktails because we used to hide that maybe there was poor spirits. We used to want to mask all of the offsets. We don't need to do that anymore because the spirits that we can make cocktails from today, they are already great. We need to just do very little, sometimes almost nothing. So I think that we need to rethink how our cocktails can catch up with us and catch up with the innovation, the progress that our industry has made. Because the old categories, we still need to learn them, we still need to know them, understand them. But the modern drinker has a different palate, has a different desire, has a different want. So maybe we need to adapt and look at, oh, this is a drink that is suitable for that occasion, this is a drink that is suitable for this occasion. There's no right or wrong. There's just different. And part of that is also adapting the ways that we distill, the ways that we produce, the ways that we make the products that we want to put inside our cocktails. Because I think as a young bartender, a few years ago, I was trained, no, I'm joking. I was trained in like pot stills, coffee stills. This is traditional way of distilling. This is a different way of distilling. And that's fine, of course, because that's how it is. But we are all trained to understand how to distill for alcohol, but we don't know anything almost about distilling for flavor. Because there's so many ways to distill for flavor that does not necessarily include distilling also for alcohol. So why does those two not combine? Why can we not do one and then add to the other? You know, if you look to the perfume industry, there's critical extraction, there's steam distillation, there's vacuum distillation, all of these ways to distill very fragile flavors and then adding them into alcohol. What about, for example, when you say critical extraction or CO2 distillation? You can take arguably 2 kilos of a herb or botanical and you can make 1,000, 2,000 bottles of that same spirit that it took 1,000, I don't know, someone who makes gin can correct me afterwards. I'm just going to say a number. This is not based on facts. But like 50 kilos of juniper and make that same amount of gin, which I'm not saying that one method is better than the other, but if we want to make our resources last longer, or if we want to apply less pressure, if we want to look at the emissions of gases, if we want to make choices so that those coming after us can also have access to the same things, it should be at least thought about. And if we don't like that way, then fine, but we cannot dismiss it without thinking about it. Because also in this search of, you know, innovation, we can actually end up finding better ways. So I think for the future of ingredients depends solely on our willingness to protect it now. And that is it.
So good.
And I'll take my cocktails.
Amazing. Y'all, I was really concerned we were going to run over on time. Thank you to our speakers for keeping it tight. I love it. Poll, what are your thoughts? What are your impressions? Monica obviously is an expert in flavors and ingredients, but I'd love for you all to reflect on how this impacts you. I mean, seeing a formula for a lemon is fascinating, right? How does that apply? And I really think all of us, as we think about sustainability, and as you all know too, that's a topic that we all have to think about. Our planet is changing, which we'll talk to later, and we have to be really mindful of that. All right, we've got a few moments, and I'm reminded by my team and my caps that we have to pace this so that we can have cocktails on time. So we'll take a moment or two. Well, I think we have a moment or two before we're back on schedule, right?
Yes.
How many minutes?
3.
3 whole minutes. Okay, that matters to the cap team, I assure you. And then we will jump over to Gary Groover, who's going to talk to, Gary, the future of AI. So bear with us for 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll get started again. Thank you.